So let's get into this. Obviously, I'm the only one that has seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Decrepity. We're going to do an Ask Me Anything, ladies and gents. So that's you guys doing super chats, Ask Me Anything, but also the panel themselves. Now, I've obviously done my review. I didn't rate it. I can't wholeheartedly recommend the film. But what do you guys want to know?
Well, the obvious question I'll leave to Nick because I think he's going to burn a hole in his pocket if he doesn't get to ask it.
I want to ask, were the rumors true? Is there time travel in this movie?
Right. So obviously, guys, if you couldn't tell because it's an Ask Me Anything, there will be spoilers.
Yeah.
Full spoilers. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. There is absolutely there is time travel in this movie, but on a way that doesn't make any sense. And the more you think about it, the more you prang out on thinking about it. So Tom alluded to it in a previous video when we were discussing about the leaks.
Yeah.
And you said a bootstrap paradox, didn't you? Now, can you explain that to me? And then I'll tell you why it's even worse than that.
Okay, what a bootstrap paradox is the Flash, basically, where something cannot happen unless somebody goes back in time and does it in the first place, which then creates a time loop, but it doesn't make sense because if that person didn't initially go back in time in the first place to do so, then how does that work? Like, the easiest way of explaining it is if somebody creates a time machine and they go back in time and they give themselves the instructions on how to build a time machine, it creates a bootstrap paradox because did that person actually invent that time machine, or did they just invent it because they went back in time and gave themselves the tools to build that time machine? So it's kind of almost like killing your grandpa, which is just a paradox, but it's not. It's different because it creates a time loop of sorts. So yeah,
right. So I mean, they're pretty bad anyway. Those kind of things are pretty bad.
Yeah,
this one's even worse.
Oh,
even worse, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And it's similar to what you're saying about this bootstrap paradox, but it's even worse, I think, personally, because the Dial of Destiny is something created by Archimedes, right, during the Roman siege.
Right.
Now, he's making it at the Roman siege. He has parts of it. Now, he obviously finishes it off because he gets the necessary components or the necessary mechanical components to be able to finish it off with the watch of Schmidt, which is Mads Mikkelsen's character, which he takes off of his dead body. And then he sees his completed time machine. But wait. So he's holding it. He's got the watch. And he starts talking to Indiana. And do you know what he says? He says, "You were always meant to be here. At this time, at this place. You were always meant to be here." Okay. So why aren't there like 10 Indiana Jones for all eternity just popping up in this place at this one singular time? Because that implies that Archimedes has seen Indiana before already. Doesn't it? It implies that Archimedes has seen Indiana Jones at that point in time previously. But it's that Archimedes is the Archimedes of that time because he hadn't finished the fucking Dial of Destiny. But he says, yeah, you were always meant to, because he rigged his Dial of Destiny to go on this closed loop, this constant loop. But also that means that at any point, basically, that point in time should have infinite number of Indiana Joneses constantly coming back through time. Because of the dialogue, you were always meant to. Implies he's seen him before. What, at that one specific time? Obviously, because he rigged the dial to go there at that specific... Fucking doesn't make sense. The more
are you trying to say That's not how the Force works.
That's not how time travel works.
The more
I-
you think about it, the more annoying it is.
I'm annoyed, and I'm annoyed because the everything that I heard about the time travel was 100% true. It was including
Honestly,
but I go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I don't think anybody really has to see this movie. I can just act it out right now. It's
Okay.
real simple.
Okay,
You've
all right.
got Indiana Jones here. He's doing his thing. Then you've got Fleabag. Since I don't have Fleabag, we're gonna use Teen Wolf. It's the closest thing I got to it.
Okay.
For a minute, I thought that was a Rose Tico figure.
No, that's Teen Wolf.
Okay,
No.
all right.
And
God.
she's like, I stole your shit. Why? So I can go back in time. Okay, let's go. We're back in time. We're changing stuff. Yay. I'm going to go back. Yay, let's go back. I'll change the world for you. Oh. Going back in time. Wake up. Oh, everything's better. Yay. Except my kid's still dead. Yeah, sorry about that. Bye. That's the movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, not really.
That's another another good question. Is what did they do with his son from Kingdom of Crystal Skull?
Oh yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. He's dead, and not fully. I mean, we know why, because he enlists, so he goes to the war and he's dead.
Yeah,
But
he
it's
gets
not-
killed in the
it's-
Vietnam War, right?
And
Yeah.
Andre said implied that he enlisted because it was basically a big FU to Indy.
Yeah, so I find that, yeah, I mean that is the implication, right? That it is basically that. But it doesn't really make too much sense to me, because they're trying to make out that Indiana is crotchety because of those incidences. But then they so he's become this grumpy old, arsehole because he's lost his kid and because he's lost his wife. But then if you're implying that his kid went there as a big FU, then the implication is he was an arsehole to his kid as well. So he was just always being an arsehole recently?
Well, I mean, it's Jake Skywalker again, Nate.
Yeah, just honestly, bizarre. Super bizarre.
All right. The question I want to know, exactly how insufferable is Fleabag?
Oh, yeah. So, right. Not likable. So it's difficult to really quantify, really, because she does very strange things that she's written very oddly. Now, she has a character arc where she is supposed to, so she's supposed to be likable, right? Then she's supposed to be unlikable. Then she's supposed to be likable again. That's her character arc. But she does weird things along the way, and it's not it's not really well thought out. So she begins fucking random young men,
Right.
and making suggestive comments, but it's just out of nowhere.
Right.
Like she's on the boat. She's on a boat with Indiana, her version of Short Round. That's right. They have a Moroccan version of Short Round. And she's like, oh yeah, promising. Oh, more promising, to some items, some alcohol. And then she finds dynamite and she goes, very promising. And then she looks around and then she sees a guy topless and she's like, very promising. And you're like, what?
So
What? That's just come out of nowhere. And then when they're in Greece, she just randomly looks at some more men and just is like, You're like, what the fuck? Like, because it's just out of nowhere. Like, it's not in her character up until that point. Until it just
She's like a
randomly
woman
happens.
whore, basically.
Yeah. So it kind of is, but kind of isn't. So previously to that, she's in Morocco, and it's out and out stated that she banged a mob boss's son, and stated she was going to marry him to get her own way. But that's the only thing that's like. She's not much of a man eater until then. But even then, that's not really man eating; it's more manipulation. And then she's just fucking all these men. It was really odd. It was very, very strange. Very just so basically, yeah. The question is she insufferable? Yeah, massively insufferable. Not likable. I would say not likable. There's very little redeeming qualities about her. So when we meet her, she is at the back of Indy's classroom because he's a professor, and she's just getting everyone in that room is not interested. They couldn't give a shit, and she's answering all the questions completely correctly. Just oh yeah, and she's getting all these weird little smiles, very like I don't know, uppity, up herself, kind of smirks at her answers, and you're like, yeah, all right. And so that's instantly, grating as an individual because you look at this person, she's like, oh, she's the best instantly. And yeah, so she's a bit of a Mary Sue as well. Can just do everything. Expert car chase driver, expert at this, can do this, can ride motorbikes, can read polysyllabus or whatever like this, mathematical equation language, code, knows all this stuff and has known all this stuff for years and has graduated and is doing a master's in archaeology, blah, 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 blah. Just epic. So yeah, there you go.
So her credentials are through the roof and way better than Indy's.
Yeah, to a degree. She's like if Indiana was actually what she called him, a grave robber, because she calls him a grave robber, and I mean he's never robbed graves, and if he has, it's only to go put them in a museum anyway. So fuck the graves, who cares? It does belong in a museum rather than other grave robbers getting it and destroying it. So yeah, or cultures of that nation destroying it in bizarre citizen uprisings and whatever. So yeah, it does belong in a museum, and yeah, Indiana Jones is right. So I don't care if he's a grave robber, fuck him. But she is, she sells stuff on the black market. She organizes, mob crime bosses to come round and do auctions for black market archaeological items. She's just out for a buck. But she called Indiana a grave robber.
Interesting.
So did the sexual revolution show up early in this film?
Apparently so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the moon landing, isn't it? So
yeah. So it's quite interesting that this is the way things are being laid out. Was there redeeming parts of this in your experience?
Yeah, so the first act, you will hear from everyone, I think. I've got no doubt about this. Literally anyone who watches the movie will go, the first act's brilliant. First act is great. It's set at the end of the World War II. The Nazis are, at some like chateau, castle. They found a whole bunch of authentic archaeological, sort of artifacts. They're looking for Christ's dagger, basically, right? Mm-hmm. The killing blow. And Indy's there trying to save the day. He's trying to find it, but obviously he realizes that Christ the dagger is a fake or whatever it is. And then they sort of stumble across the Dial of Destiny by accident. But there's a great train sequence. It was just great, and it's really good, whether it's CGI de-aging or it's deep fake, who cares, whatever. That was pretty damn good. The voice, because they've got a body double to play him, so it's not him doing it. So it's not like The Irishman where you got these people sort of ambling around that are clearly fucking ancient, right? It's not that. Like, they actually have a young actor doing the jumping around and the body stuff, but it's the voice. Every now and then the voice would come through and you'd go, oh, yeah, that's a bit old. But the body work was great. The de-aging stuff, deep fakery was great. It was really good. Like, it's probably some of the best deep fake de-aging stuff we've seen yet. I'm trying to think what's comparable to it. Like, I think I said in my review, Luke Skywalker and The Mandalorian, because I think they did a pretty good job with that as well. There's always a little bit glaring here and there, but this is some of the best. It is some of the best, I think, yet. And the train sequence was really, really good fun. Like that felt like Indiana Jones. The music worked. The thing is, when you're in that setting and you're seeing all the Nazis and it's young Harrison Ford and he's doing his thing, the music coming through feels authentic and it feels earned, right? That I think that's the key. It feels like the music and the score is earned at that point. But then flash forward and you hear the music coming through, you're like, this does not feel right. It feels disjointed. It feels jarring. Not good. So that's a redeeming part of it is the opening act. Absolutely.
But after that, it sounds like it gets
it gets bad real fucking quick.
Yeah.
Because the next scene from there is literally old Indiana in a pair of underwear banging on his neighbor's door with a baseball bat, telling him to turn the music down at 8 a.m. in the morning. You go from that great opening to that, and you think that's a good way to introduce the old Indiana. I mean, I get it because you are supposed to be introducing an older Indiana that doesn't like things, but that's not the Indiana we want to see anyway.
He's now turned into the old "get off my lawn, you damn
massively."
Kids.
Oh no, massively. It's such a weird narrative juxtaposition to go from one to the other and think that people are going to receive that good. So that's going to be well received because it's like, whoa, what the fuck?
Well, it sounds like it was they made a lot of instead of making good narrative choices, they looked for the worst one they could make, and then then that's the one they went with. I mean, I'm not sure you're prepared for that kind of whiplash in a film from Act 1 to Act 2. So, yeah, you're really not encouraging me to want to see this film in 3 hours plus. Thanks, appreciate it. My God.
Yeah. I honestly. Hey, buddy. My dog just walked in.
And you said you didn't put a rating on it yet.
No, I don't do ratings. I don't like to do ratings.
Okay.
It's very rare that I do ratings. The thing is, if I had to give ratings, I'd give the opening act like a great rating, like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. It's a really good opening act. It's a good opening act anyway, but then it also feels like Indiana. So yeah, like a solid 8 out of 10 for sure. Like absolutely for sure. But then there's other parts of the movie like, oh my God, like I legitimately fell asleep briefly in a chase scene. I fell asleep briefly in a chase scene. Our movie that's been shown at 3:30 in the afternoon. Like I'm not super old where I need to have a nap. I fell asleep because I was bored. It was boring. The chase scene on the tuk-tuks through Marrakesh or Morocco, wherever it is, was boring. God. So,
That's not good. That's not good because I didn't have a whole lot of sleep last night. So you're not helping me out here, Nate. You're really
it's very drawn out, very overlong. You go from scene to scene, and it's very drawn out and overlong. Very meandering. Wow. That's a good word for it, I would say.
How do you have a boring chase scene?
Oh, because it just drags. Like it goes on for too long, and they're in tuk-tuks, so it's not that exciting.
And it already kind of was reminiscent of things we'd already seen in Indiana Jones before, so it didn't seem like it was anything new.
Oh, massively.
A lot like the Crystal Skull bike scene.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, not good. Not good by any stretch.
I'm sorry you had to take one for the team.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what else to ask you. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of girl boss in it. Obviously, you have things that are clearly quite out of place. He doesn't redeem his character at all at any point.
Well, no, it doesn't. No. Wow. No, because his characters are redeemed for him. So at the end of the film, he wants to stay there. He wants to stay in the past. and he's bitching and he's moaning. He's like, no, just let me die. Let me die here. Let me stay here. Blah, 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 blah. And that goes on for too long as well. It's supposed to be this big emotional scene, but you're just thinking this is very out of character for you, Indy. And so because it goes on and on and on even more, you're questioning it even more and more and more. You're like, what the fuck? So she punches him in the face. And then he wakes up in his bed. And I think it's been misunderstood with people that have seen it advance. So nothing is changed.
Right.
No one travels through time to change anything, right?
Right.
The only thing that's changed is obviously when Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Indiana Jones came back, right? Helena Shaw, they came back from the past, from Archimedes. Helena Shaw went immediately to Marion and said, "Oh, this has happened. He's dying, basically. He's really, really sick." And so that is why Marion turns up. Nothing in the past was changed that made that happen. Helena is now Cupid as well.
But she sounds like she can do anything that she wants, and
Yeah.
no consequences. Were the stuntmen accommodating?
Well, so just to further clarify on that, because it's really
okay.
important to note, I think, and I'll answer that question as well.
Yeah.
It is literally confirmed in dialogue that what I've said is true. Nothing in the past was changed. Literally nothing. So it's actually confirmed in dialogue, because Marion says to Indy, "Oh, I was told you're back," i.e., you're back being an adventurer. Why are you here? Well, blah, blah, blah. I've heard you're back. Are you back? And he's like, well, so it's not that. And she's still, she doesn't live there because she's like, oh, this place is, you've got no food here. You have no food here. You have no food here. Nothing's changed. They're not back together. She's just been called round the house. That's literally it. So anyone who ever has said that's, the end of the movie and that it's time travel and it's been changed, that's not true. They didn't listen to the dialogue properly.
Good Lord. So we're worse off than when the film started.
Yeah, way worse off. So you sort of end in the same position as the Crystal Skull end, but also sort of not.
Wow. How many reshoots do you think were involved in this? Could you spot them? Because the people that have seen it that I know,
I'm not even sure if this was the only alternate ending.
Yeah,
because I had heard about a Back to the Future ending where Marion is just there with him, and they never did get a divorce or weren't getting a divorce, and there's implication that Mutt never went to Vietnam or some shit like that too.
Yeah, so those kind of endings could have just been shot in a day.
Yeah,
so I think how you go from the past to the future, you can't clearly see that there's reshoots from there, right? You just can't, because you go from the past to the future. That scene transition is jarring anyway, because he gets punched. So the next scene could be anything, regardless of what we see. So if anyone says, well, I could clearly see a reshoot from this point to this point, not really, because that transition is quite jarring as it is, regardless. Like, you are literally going from the past to the future after after Indy's been punched. So yeah, I don't think there is, there probably is, there probably has been multiple endings shot, but from this, can you tell what was cut out?
Right.
No. But there is a really, it is quite a jarring death for the villain. Like, he does die pretty quickly and he's just dead. You're like, oh, right, cool, fine.
Is there any attempt to explain how we wouldn't be radically different in this time loop that's established if a plane crashes with a lot of future tech and engineering in the time of Archimedes?
Say that again, sorry.
Okay, so in that time loop with Archimedes, there's a plane crash, which is how the villain dies.
Yeah.
Sorry, major spoilers, guys. But is there anything to suggest why we don't have more advanced technology when Indy returns from that time loop? Because there would have been a lot of engineering and other things that would have been recovered.
No. So there's not actually, and that's kind of a plot hole to a degree, because you could say because it's in such disrepair, big crash, and then there's still the war going on, the siege of Syracuse, I guess. That's one way to explain it, but it doesn't really make too much sense, because on Archimedes' tomb,
Right,
they show a phoenix. Oh, well, I guess maybe they explain it. So they think that they're dragons from the sky. Oh, they have dragons. The Romans think, Archimedes has dragons. Archimedes thinks the Romans have dragons. So maybe, but basically on Archimedes' tomb, it is a phoenix with propellers for wings.
Well, but
so they obviously kind of understood what it was, but kind of didn't.
right. I mean, you would think Archimedes kind of a smart dude, so maybe would have like reverse engineered the dragon. That's why I always have a problem with these things when you do that, because you would have massive jump in engineering and technology. Because that's one of the things that the clever apes do. We reverse engineer.
Well, he did though. So he did. Well, I guess really selective. So
Yeah.
I think I would say it's basically implied that the only way he managed to complete the Dial of Destiny is because he had the watch of the Nazi Schmidt. But he didn't keep the Dial of Destiny in the past. They took it with them. But he had his own Dial of Destiny that was semi-completed.
Wow.
But he also understood and knew what it was, and that he'd seen Harrison Ford before already.
But
even though he couldn't have, because it's that close time loop anyway, and he does die, and he dies with the watch. It's annoying. When you think about it more and more, it gets more and more annoying.
Okay, I'm going to set aside the infinite loop thing and suggest that perhaps, there's something that explains that. He still changes everything in the future, and Archimedes helps enable him because he fixes the time to come to that place. The Dial of Destiny only goes one place. It's to
it's a closed loop, so it only goes to one place.
Yeah, good lord.
But that's why it'd be an infinite time loop, i.e., there should be infinite Indianas turning up.
Well,
at one point,
not with, yeah, but it's the writer's limited understanding of time travel that keeps that from being a problem, I guess. I don't know. This is bad.
Yeah, I know. Well, the thing is, you wouldn't have that problem if they didn't establish that Archimedes had already seen Harrison Ford and knew he was going to turn up, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're changing the time mechanic in that universe by having him say that. By having him say that implies he's already seen Indiana before, but he can't have done that unless infinite Indianas always turn up at the same point in time all the time.
Okay.
Because otherwise he has to die, but he'd also know, and then do you see? He'd also know previous to that event that he's going to see Indiana, but he can't know that.
This is why
it doesn't make any sense.
This is why I hate time travel for people who aren't thinking of all of the things that go into it.
Well, they just didn't have to say it. They could have just gone, "Oh, you've got my time machine."
Right.
Just that. You didn't have to say that. Or you're always going to. Just that one line ruins it. Well, it does more than ruin it. Like, the film's ruined anyway, but that adds a new dumb depth to the time travel thing.
I don't have any more questions to ask. Every single thing that I was told about this film seemingly is true.
Yeah.
And I have to go see it still.
I got another question.
Okay, Nick, good luck.
Was watching this Indiana Jones film, did it feel like you were watching Indiana Jones, or did it feel like you were watching something else?
So only the start. The rest of it did actually just feel like you were watching old Harrison Ford, because he kind of plays himself. Because he is a bit of a grumpy old man in interviews. Massive.
Yeah.
So
Was there
when
any
you're watching
cool?
him,
Was there any cool adventure stuff that was like, okay, this feels like Indiana Jones?
no, because they go to Archimedes' tomb,
Hmm.
but Indiana Jones is complete. He's like he's hanging off of an old. He's climbing a a cliff face sort of thing, a cave,
Hmm.
and he's just standing. He's just in one stationary moment. He's not moving. And Helene is like, "What are you doing? Are you okay?" And he's like, "No, I'm wondering why I'm here with my old aching joints and my old this and my old that." And I'm like, oh, "God, shut the fuck up!" Like, God damn. So no, not really.
Wow, man. I'm glad I'm not paying money to go see this.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't great.